Yes, I'm Frith, and this is my museum, Te Papa, on opening day 20 years ago, when its walls were brand new. And you can see the crowds desperate to get inside. But other walls were being broken, those between cultures and collection areas, because Te Papa was set up to be bicultural with two leaders, and also it merged the National Museum and the National Art Gallery. So we actually span history, natural history, and art. And since then, we've been working really hard to break down barriers for our audiences to our communities. These are our visitation figures, which are pretty good, given that our national population is only 4.8 million, so just a little bit bigger than LA's. And our audience is broadly representative of the cultural groups in our population too. We have been, gone too far, particularly committed to community co-creation. This is the truly amazing opening of our most recent collaboration with the Rongowhakaata tribe. And that meeting house in the background was actually stolen by the government in the 1860s and will now be returned to the iwi. So that's a little bit of cultural diplomacy, as you were talking about, Shirani. But we do need to stay relevant and current. One of our initiatives is Mahuki, as Brendan talked about. We've also begun to redevelop all of our long-term exhibitions, starting with art and natural history, and we'll be taking a stronger role around social and environmental issues in particular, and pushing at more walls, including those between past and present. So linking our collections to current debates, between our 5 collection areas, between Te Papa and the world beyond, and between us and our audiences by collaborating with them and doing audience testing, and also by thinking of them as players or actors within the experiences that we create rather than observers of them. So that's kind of breaking the fourth wall in the theatrical sense. So my focus today is on the final bullet point of audience testing. And we've adopted Maurice Hargreaves McIntyre's culture segments to help us. Now, these segments don't assume that every Māori person or every woman or every millennial is or wants the same from their cultural experiences. They classify audiences by their deeper values and motivations, so they're psychographic rather than demographic, and designed specifically for the arts and cultural sector for both content creation and marketing purposes. Now, we've identified, 3 targets for our new core exhibitions: expression, stimulation, and affirmation. They're circled here. Now, these targets are 3 of our biggest audiences already, and we've worked really hard to reach them, so moving beyond the traditional older museum goers of essence and enrichment. They're also fairly aligned in what they're looking for, particularly fun, social, immersive, hands-on experiences. So not a didactic book on the wall. And it is flicking through automatically, I think, but never mind. But we're not discarding demographics altogether. We have some social targets too: children and families, who are a major repeat audience, of course, and young Māori, the future of that cultural revival. And we do also track millennials. We actually overrepresent them by 7% compared to the population. So MHM first helped us to test with the culture segments for our latest international touring show, Bug Lab, which is actually coming to the US next year. And that testing helped us confirm that our kind of sci-fi immersive approach really resonated. So this is a world created and narrated by bugs that's about how their technology can help solve human problems. So for our new natural history exhibitions, we needed to take that testing a bit further, right around the country. But before we did that, we did as much as we could on our own. So we interviewed our own docents about their visitor observations. Everyone on the exhibition team, including back-of-house staff, observed visitors in the gallery. We reviewed old exit survey data. Students of Worcester Polytechnic even did a new evaluation of our exhibitions for us. And we looked at a big research report on New Zealanders' environmental attitudes. And the concept that grew from this, in very broad terms, has 3 big ideas. What makes New Zealand's environment unique? The threats to it, and the action that we all need to take today to protect it. And a sense of immersion and story is also really important. So the Pacific figure of Maui acts as a sort of guide throughout. So you take on different roles that mimic his, from explorer through to perpetrator and then on to innovator. So this isn't quite Maui like the rock in Moana, but a figure whose relationship with the land mirrors our own. Now, throughout the show, Indigenous knowledge, mātauranga, and science are intertwined. So concepts like whānaungatanga or connection underlie everything. Humans are part of, not separate from, the natural environment. All content is bilingual too. So supported by MHM, we tested the structure and draft concepts with the culture segments as well as kids aged 7 to 13. And on the whole, testing really supported our approach. People liked the emphasis on New Zealand's quirky uniqueness, so our flightless, gigantic birds and species found nowhere else on the world. They also supported us breaking down the boundaries between mātauranga, Indigenous knowledge, and science. And we're really keen on Maui's role. As we expected, they wanted immersion and interactivity because there's so much information on the internet already. And they wanted natural history, the past, to come into the present. So what's at stake today? They liked the focus on environmental issues, and a number expressed a bit of cynicism around New Zealand's clean, green image. But a couple of things stood out, and I'm going to focus on what we always knew would be the trickiest topic, and that's climate change. So this clearly came through as the biggest environmental concern for adults, but they ranked it as least interesting. And as you might guess, this is why. Not sexy, can't do much about it, over it, depressing. So just about every culture segment is represented here. And on this scale, many people rank themselves as feeling powerless to effect rather than affect change. So they wanted something different, something fun, an upbeat take on climate change and other environmental issues. They wanted to know about success stories like that of the really tiny Pacific atoll of Tokelau, which is actually the first country in the world to run entirely on sustainable energy, solar energy. And they wanted the small acts that they could do to make a difference, but not a big preachy to-do list. They were really clear on this. And I think this is one of our biggest challenges, how to present these positive actions in a really creative, playful way. Everyone accepted that climate change is happening, but not all agreed on whether the debate around that should be given airtime. Who knows if they're referring to anyone specific here or not. Beyond the testing with MHM, we also did workshops with demographic groups in 4 centres nationwide. And one guy there said, whoops, where are we? I don't trust what the media and government say about climate change, but I trust te papa, which maybe says something about this post-truth world with all its alternative facts and the very important stand and role that museums can and must take. So what do we take away beyond these specific findings? That there's huge value in being face-to-face with audiences. Some of our more experienced team members anticipated many of the responses, but testing is also about getting the whole team on the same page and moving beyond personal hunches and just really hearing from people directly. And it can be very quick and cheap too, just taking a prototype on the floor. No matter how much you think you know about your audiences, there are always surprises. For example, this adult's understanding of climate change is that because the ice is melting is more basic than the 8-year-old's. It's actually caused by gases. And the things we might think everyone knows, many people don't. So my favourite definition of natural history here is rugby. I don't know if that's a joke or what, but the others were clearly confused too. And finally, testing does not get us off the hook. We still have to have a creative vision. The Australian writer Mike Jones once warned that we shouldn't be using testing like a drunk uses a lamppost. We can't expect creative solutions. And sometimes we have to stick to the vision and ignore what the audience says. Like this. The world might be screwed, but Wellington's probably okay. She'll be right, mate. In fact, Te Papa is coming out of this testing with an even stronger commitment. We are going to make climate change sexy, even if it kills us. Now, I can't reveal what the final concept is just yet, except to say that it will be immersive and uplifting. But here is a sneak peek of other areas of the show, which opens at the end of next year, along with the incredibly creative team I am so very fortunate to work with. Kia ora koutou, thank you.